Leave it in.
Yeah, leave it in. 3, 2, 1. Hey, folks. Welcome to the BN Cubs podcast. I'm Brad Taylor. That's Michael Cerami doing his best Ric Flair impersonation at the start of the pod.
Woo!
There you go.
I would have done that a lot louder and more animated, but I think I have a big...
Okay.
There you go.
We're a little excited here on the BN Cubs podcast because, of course, the Cubs are the National League wild card champions, kind of half sharing it with the Dodgers. But the Dodgers won a division, so it's like the Cubs are the best. They're the champion wild card team.
They are the champion wild card team. You know, people are saying, you win that wild card number 1 seed, you win the wild card series, then you're the hot team going into October. And, I got to say, I think that means we're up to keep going.
Probably the favorites now from here on out.
For the next 3 World Series, I think it actually extends beyond.
Typically.
Yeah. I mean, listen, average 1.5 World Series over the next 3 years because of winning that. But
right, I guess I'll take. So speaking of favorites, I got to say our favorite sponsor for this podcast, Ankin Law, 312-6 million, injury law made personal. I had to make sure to get that in there, but you can tell we're hyped. We're excited. So, we're recording this on Friday morning. Cubs won it last night. I think I was talking to a number of people about the fact that the Cubs have, of course, not won a playoff series in 7 years. I remember that Nationals divisional series win very well. It was a particularly exciting Game 5. That was actually, I think, one of the most intense, exciting games of that stretch of the Cubs. But what didn't really hit me until last night is like 7 years is a long time.
Wait. I wanted to bring that up. Sorry to pause you right there. You know what was exactly the same thing? This is so weird. 2008 is when they made the playoffs. And then the next time was 2015, also 7-year gap now, which is really, really strange. Right. But what's super strange about this to me is that the 2015, the 2008 to 2015 gap in playoff, I guess that was appearances, but like wins of any kind, feels like a much bigger gap than what we just experienced. And I don't know if it felt like that was 2 totally different eras of Cubs baseball. And this feels more like, that was the last era, but like it kind of covered it. And, cause I was like thinking in my head, I was like, yeah, man, it sucks how long we had to wait. It's like, wait, we kind of just had to wait a similar time. I know 2020 happened, but is anyone counting?
I'd say there's probably 3 reasons it feels, because I agree. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, it definitely feels that way. Probably 3 reasons. One, because 2020 was mixed in there and technically they did make the playoffs, even though it doesn't feel like a real season. It sort of, it bridges the gap a little bit. That's one. 2, that 2008 to 2015 period, of course, included the turnover of the front office, the sale of the team to the Ricketts, and the rebuild, which I think makes it feel like a longer process. Like we enjoyed that process, but it makes it feel like, wow, okay, this is a real big journey to get back to the playoffs. Yeah. And then the third reason is more of a philosophical one, which is as you get older, all time feels shorter because it's relative to your age.
I started at Bleacher Nation in 2015, so it's kind of like my window of that type of fandom is different, but really strange. I have to share one other story before we get into anything else. So I was covering the game yesterday, which for the purposes of Brett and I just means whoever's going to do the enhanced box score and maybe who's jumping on highlights like in the middle of the game. Obviously, Brett was watching too and contributing on social and all that stuff. We just share the load when we can. And I started typing around the end of the eighth inning. I started typing up like the enhanced box score, getting it sort of ready. But obviously that wasn't one you could pre-write too much because it was just ridiculously close, intense. And you knew it wasn't going to be like 1, 2, 3 in the ninth. It just didn't have that vibe. And so I'm sitting here watching, and then there's 1 out, there's 2 outs. So I'm typing a little bit more. I'm getting it all ready to like hit publish. And although I watched games 1 and 2 on cable because of where I was in my house, and that feed was super close, and also cable, so nothing goes wrong. With 2 outs in the 9th inning yesterday, my stream froze after
Oh
the
my
second out.
gosh.
And I was like, oh, what? And then all of a sudden it was like group me, text messages, Twitter, the MLB at Bat app, like phone calls. And I was like, I mean, I think they just won, but I can't click publish on this or share like the graphic I had made and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, I mean, this could be like an all-time gaffe that I'll never live down.
Huey defeats Truman.
Yeah. I mean, oh my God. I was just nervous out of my mind to click publish because it paused and I was like, oh my God. And listen, even if the app says like mid-9, because that's what it says when that inning ends, there's managerial challenges,
and
reviews,
it doesn't always stop for that. Yeah.
And so I was like, I don't know what to do. And it was the most stressful, like 30 seconds ever, but I got a lot of different signals from different people. I was like, funny. Okay, I think they won. So I did not get to watch the final out of that game until the highlight came out a little bit after. Funny. It was brutal. So that was my experience.
At least you didn't accidentally, I think in the history of doing the enhanced box score for, was that 17 years? I think only one time I accidentally clicked publish when I meant to just click like save on one that wasn't completed yet. And it was a 9th inning and they lost. And I had accidentally quickly published. But I mean, I think this was in the dark ages of so it was not, I don't think, getting like passed around Twitter rapidly. But
nowadays that would have been over. Twitter, people were stressed this week. I'll say that much.
Yes, there was, and the energy at the ballpark was fantastic. I only got to be there, which sucked, for game 2, which was the loss. And it was a kind of an air sucking loss because there wasn't a whole lot of exciting moments, but I will say this, at even the tiniest whiff of excitement, people were on their feet screaming, losing their mind. Like when Mason Miller was in, okay, the Cubs were down still, a few runs at that point.
Yeah, probably 3.
And he hit Michael Busch. He was striking everybody out, but he accidentally plunked Michael Busch. We flipped our lid. Everybody's like screaming, standing, cheering, like, let's go now. What's happening? Yeah. So yeah, to say Cubs fans were hungry after 7 years, particularly keeping in mind the context for that it's like, okay, it's 7 years since the last postseason appearance. Oh, I think I misspoke earlier. I said 7, it's 8 since the last win.
Right.
But that 2018. So not only was it just the one wildcard game, it was at Wrigley, but the energy for that.
We kind of had 2 playoff games that year. I know game 163.
So even for game 163, which was also at Wrigley, the energy was not great.
No,
because it had been this concurrent slide by the Cubs and massive surge by the Brewers, and it had this pull feeling over it. And then the wild card game, I'm telling you, I don't know if you remember it this way too, but it's not as if Cubs fans were rooting for the Cubs to lose. It's not that, but there was absolutely a broad feeling of like, this is not going anywhere. Forget this. Just get it over with. This season is a disaster. I remember that feeling. And so it actually, it feels like, and a pause on that too. That Dodgers series, NLCS in 2017, wasn't quite that bad, but it did have a feeling of, they're not going to win this.
So I totally agree. And I have a couple, I went to the, which game was it at Wrigley for the NLCS against the Dodgers? Lackey came in to pitch. It rained a little bit. I don't remember which game I went to, but the bottom line there is, I remember in 2016, 15 for sure, tons of energy and excitement and blah, blah, blah. 2016, it was obviously every game was like, we were out of our minds, right? 2017, I remember I got an opportunity to get tickets to the NLCS and I went And I remember being like, this feels so different already in 2017. And that was still a good team. That was the NLCS. I mean, it just was like this week. I don't know if we were spoiled by 2016 or there was the hangover or we had back-to-back NLCSs. So the 2017 season didn't quite feel, it was like, I don't know, show me more or something.
Right.
This series though was like, it felt like Cubs fans were appropriately like, no, we want this. We want to win this series. It feels like it will be its own mini victory to win the series. Whereas 2017 and 18, it was kind of like, get to the World Series and we'll talk. Like, I don't know why it necessarily, I don't know if that's revisionist history, but it just felt different this week. It felt very, very different. And I was super proud of Cubs fans. It was first inning. It was like 2 strikes with 1 out and people are on their feet,
Well, and not to listen, I get the differences. So it's not, I don't mean this at all as a criticism of Cleveland or the Guardians fans, but I don't know if you were watching any of that series. Also weekday day games. Now they'd had a surge, of course, at the end of the season to get those home games. And they were pretty sparsely attended. And again, I get all the reasons and I'm not ripping them, but just as a credit to Cubs fans and the Cubs that like these weekday day games, they were packed. I mean, they were packed, they were charged, they were energetic. The neighborhood was packed with people. So I do anticipate for this Brewers series in NLDS with the caveat that if they come back 0-2, game 3 might have a bit of a harsh buzz. But if they come back split or, God love leading 2-0, I think the energy for this series is going to be reminiscent of the 2015 NLDS against the Cardinals. I think it's going to have that kind of energy. So
and I'm sure we're going to get in, but before I know we got to talk about the Padres series a little bit. But I do want to just talk about this coming series one more time. And it's that I wrote this, I don't remember when, earlier this week. This week has been a blur. I mean, I really feel like genuinely so renewed and refreshed in my excitement. That was such a stressful and fun series, but in retrospect, if they had lost, I would have said that sucked. But this Brewers series, I mean, the way the Brewers have evolved into the more appropriate natural rival of the Cubs vis-a-vis the Cardinals is so present in the top of my mind to me. The Brewers, I'm not speaking for everyone. I get that there's a lot of history between the Cubs and the Cardinals, but for me and in my lifetime, the Cubs and Brewers rivalry and when the Brewers have been good compared to when the Cubs have been good has just been way more upfront. And Milwaukee is closer, and Wisconsin and Illinois already have sort of like a thing between them. There's loving animosity between all the Illinois folk that go up to Wisconsin for their lakes and summer fun and stuff. And they want us to get out of there and can't buy spotted cow south of the border and blah, 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 blah. Like there's a lot of stuff like that. Whereas I feel none of that for Missouri or St. Louis. I mean, it's only the Cubs and the Cardinals. So there's just a lot of natural rivalry there already. And for the Brewers to have once again, overtaken the Cubs in the division and then become this darling team of Major League Baseball and, Jacob Misiorowski getting the all-star now, like there's just a lot going into this series that is setting it up to be, even more exciting than whatever NLCS matchup for the Cubs or the Brewers, whoever ends up winning awaits. It feels like this is like, the big series that the Cubs need to get past. I don't know if that's just the fan of me speaking. I'm sure it is, but I don't know. It feels like the Brewers are the demon that the Cubs need to exercise, not whoever's waiting in the next round.
Well, again, another parallel to 2015, where that is exactly what the feeling was at the time with respect to the Cardinals in the DS. It felt like that was the series that if the Cubs could win it would not put a cap on a great year, but it would confirm that it was a great year and great things are coming and all that. And like, so almost, this is a little bit of narrative building, but it's almost unsurprising they got swept by the Mets there in the NLCS thereafter, because it was sort of like, okay, hey, we already won our Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. It did kind of feel like
and
that.
You don't, I'm certainly not advocating that in advance of this Brewers series, because, Phillies, Dodgers, whatever, the Cubs can beat these teams. But I'm right there with you that this was the series I wanted. I mean, we talked about this, I think, on the pod, even going as far back as like mid-September, that we could see the way things were shaking, that it was like it could be Cubs, Brewers, and NLDS. And like, I love that matchup. I love that matchup for the Cubs. Now, I loved it more when they would have had Cade Horton starting game one.
Oh, God.
But the Brewers would respond. They loved it more when they had Brandon Woodruff available for 2 or 3. So, that's fair. But you can hold us to it, because we said this, that even if the Cubs lose this series, there's something about it that's going to feel like this was just the best way for this to play out. And it's not even, we haven't even mentioned the whole Craig Counsell thing. Like, I don't know. Whatever. I know that's a storyline, and I understand we'll probably cover it because he'll be asked a lot and whatever. To me, that doesn't mean nearly as much as what Michael is saying, which is just in the last 10 years, it has felt like the Brewers are the team that is annoying the hell out of the Cubs, and the Cubs are the team that the Brewers want to beat down.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
And honestly, I'm not, like, I know that I'm riding a high of winning the series, and I will be so frustrated and stressed and all of that if the Cubs have a bad showing. But at the same time, I'm going to try again. You can try to remind me of this, try to hold me to it. It does feel like, put up or shut up time for the Cubs. Are you better than the Brewers, or are you not?
And the Brewers too.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's like, this is, all year we were saying, listen, the Cubs are maybe the better team on paper, but Brewers just had that crazy run and whatever. Here it is. I know the playoffs aren't, what's the word? Illustrative of, a team's true talent, but I don't really like that storyline. It's like, you play to get in, and then you got to make it happen. We're not doing projections are the winners of the seasons. You play a tournament. It's sports. Like, this is it.
It cuts both ways. And this can get us back into the Padres series for a bit to discuss that. As the series get longer, you get closer to establishing that the winner, I've heard this before, and I'm going to butcher the actual numbers, but you'll get the point, that for each sport, if you wanted to get to a 90% confidence level that the winner of that series is the in fact better team, it's for NFL, it's something like you'd need 3 games. For the NBA, it's something like 17 games. And for MLB, it's something like 45 games or something. I mean, but we know this about our sport, we come into the sport of baseball understanding, I think most people, that variance and flukes and bounces and umpire calls can change the course of a game and a series with ease in ways that aren't going to be reflective of, well, this team is better than that. But that said, to Michael's point, it's kind of like none of that has anything to do with how we feel about our connection to a team and a season. Like, it's not as if we're going to feel better about this season if the Cubs outplay the Brewers in this series. Clearly, everyone agrees, but they lose the games because of some fluky whatever. We're going to be like, yeah, but they lost. That sucked. That, like, now is the time.
How many lucky hits did the Cubs get yesterday?
Yeah.
A ton. That was some Cardinals, Brewers, voodoo magic. I mean, there were infield pop-up singles for the Cubs yesterday.
The Michael Busch one.
Yeah. I mean, like, there was some luck. Luis Arias not running it out to first base when Dansby
what was he thinking, man? Because it didn't look like Dansby caught it. Like, it immediately popped out of his like,
I don't know, that's pretty bad. Good on Dansby. I mean, we'll talk about him in a second, I'm sure, but And another thing, do you want to start getting into the Padres series before?
Let me start at the biggest picture, and then you can make a point, which is that I don't know that I would say the Cubs definitely outplayed the Padres in this series. I think probably, like if I was doing some like a boxing match where I had to do my point tabulation and say, okay, you know what, I'm going to declare the Cubs 51-49 winners. That's what it might be. So it's not as if the Cubs blew away the Padres in this series, if that's even possible in a 3-game series, which I would argue it's not. We follow 3-game series all season long. And do you ever come away, you and me, I'm saying, again, some other folks might disagree, but do you ever come away from a 2-1 series win by the Cubs feeling like, I'm 100% sure that this other very good team is worse than the Cubs?
Not very good. You could say that about a very bad team. You're like, oh my God.
Look at the Brewers this season, right? The Cubs won that season series by a game. That's a season series. And that was enough where I'm like, okay, I think the Cubs on paper or true talent is better than the Brewers. I still believe that. But that's me being a little bold and a little meatball-y to make that proclamation on the basis of 13 games or whatever.
Yeah, right.
So
a couple of just stray observations from the Padres game, or series, excuse me. My opinion on Mike Shildt has shifted a little bit. I think coming into this series, I obviously just didn't know enough about him, but from the way he looks to his time with the Cardinals to the way they just gave him that job. And then it was just like, you're the guy now because you're amazing. I just never liked him. And I still don't like him. I don't know. I'm just being honest. I have nothing but annoyed feelings towards him. He managed the shit out of that series. If Yu Darvish stays in that game, the Cubs win 6-2.
Yeah.
If Yu Darvish threw one more pitch, the Cubs were going to blow that game open. It absolutely was going to happen. He did exactly what he needed to do. And even frankly, the day before, I got a lot of texts from friends like, I'm so happy that they're pulling Dylan Cease. And even from smart baseball fans who know the Padres bullpen is good. I was like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it might be the right call. Like you absolutely could have kept riding Dylan Cease. He looked really, really good. And I got sick of Cubs fans and Padres fans telling me like, oh, you must not have watched a lot of Dylan Cease this year. I'm like, yeah, I know exactly who Dylan Cease is. Like, I know also when any pitcher, whoever it is locked in, and he looked pretty darn unhittable. Shildt made a bold call and they won that game, the Padres. So I don't know. I thought I was impressed by how he managed that series.
I just want to build a little bit on that Dylan Cease point because I think we got two really good additional examples of that philosophy this series and how you have to think about pitching in the postseason. Yesterday with Jameson Taillon, it was the same thing. It wasn't just 4 successful innings. He looked every bit as good as Dylan Cease did against the Cubs the day before.
Excellent.
He was executing perfectly, and the Padres had nothing for him. And when Craig Counsell pulled him after 4 innings, I said, yep, okay, that sounds about right. And the reason is you'd rather be early with a decision like that than late. Because in the postseason, if you're late on pulling a starting pitcher, you may have just lost the game. Yep. And so you better to be early. Go with a fresh arm, go with the matchups, go with all of the things that you've built this bullpen to be. In theory, the Cubs and Padres both have done so, because the counterexample is what we saw in Game 1. Now, Nick Pivetta was cruising, dominating. The Cubs had nothing for him. And even with the 2 home runs he gave up, those were not poorly executed pitches. But you know what they were? They were opportunities for Seiya Suzuki and Carson Kelly to have seen him multiple times that day and say, you know what? I'm not doing anything with this pitch in this quadrant or this pitch. I'm just, if he gets one even up at the letters and it's that 4-seamer, that's what I'm going to be on. And I'm not convinced that they're able to do that if they haven't already seen him a couple times that day, no matter how good he looked. And so that's why you pulled the guy.
And listen, what we're talking about too, it's moderately true in a 5-game series. It's way less true in a 7-game series. In a 3-game series, and or when you are facing elimination, you do the most aggressive versions of everything. I think you just have to. It's the way you win. I mean, it's just the way you win. And I saw some people, and people I like, being like, I would have waited to pull JMO until the first sign of trouble. It's like, the first sign of trouble is too late in a game where there's 4 innings left. I mean, each of these games, whichever team got 3 runs was it. That was it. You get 3 runs and then you shut down the other team. The Padres bullpen, another just stray note, man, every bit as good, if not better than advertised. They were absolutely incredible. They were so good. Jeremiah Estrada, was he the one who walked in Dansby?
Okay. He walked in the run. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And then threw 2 scoreless innings. Mason Miller, I mean, that was better. That was like 2 years ago, Mason Miller. He was incredible. Everyone's been talking about that 104.5 mile an hour pitch on the outside corner. It was like, yeah, what are you supposed to do? You cannot hit that.
No.
And if you do, nothing good is going to happen. There's
probably 5 guys in baseball who could have even maybe fouled that off. Maybe. And Nico is one of them.
Yeah. Right.
And Luis Ariz is one of the others. But like, it's there. It's in a spot that's impossible to put good wood on. And it's there so quickly that you can't react. It really was one of the best. That was one of the best pitches.
Best fastball pitches. I mean, at least, so then the other thing though, is like, you got to think that heading into, actually, no, I want to stay on the Padres series for 1 second. I want to just generally ask you about this because it was probably the biggest negative development. And then I have some good stuff from the series. Is like, how'd you feel about Keller last night in the 9th? I mean, is there what's going on there? He got through the 8th, but it wasn't great. And then the 9th, I mean, after the homer, I'm surprised he didn't get pulled. After the first hit by pitch, I'm surprised he didn't get pulled. I mean, Counsell ran with him a little bit there.
And you have to assume, because of the situation, I mean, someone was warm. Like Kittredge must have already been up and been warm.
Kittredge and Boyd were up, I want to say.
Because you were never going to be in that situation and not, it isn't like the regular season where you're like, okay, we just really need to get through this inning with this guy so I can save these other guys. No. To me, I take very little away from it for 2 reasons. One,
makes me feel good.
the finale. Remember, he pitched and he struggled against the Cardinals. It was at the game that clinched. I forget what it was, but it was his last regular season appearance. He was wild and bad, and it was sort of like, okay. I mean, this game doesn't matter, but like, okay. This series, until that 9th inning yesterday, he looked great. He looked like Brad Keller, like fine. And I always
you're talking about 2 of his last 4.
Well, but hold on. I always like to see guys bounce back, especially when it's later in the year and they've worn down and they're tired and all that. Mm-hmm. But what we hadn't seen, and I have to go back and look at his logs, is the up down thing. Like for him to have sat down and come back out. Oh. Not every guy every time is going to be as successful as like every reliever was this series doing that. It's kind of crazy how successful every reliever on both teams was when they were coming back out a second time. That's not typical. You look, Craig Counsell did it twice with Daniel Palencia.
Yep.
And I was like, what? I was nervous both those times and he was fine. So anyway,
I think the second inning in his second appearance was a little bit more like, he leaning on stuff over execution, but the first time he was great. By the time you're listening to this podcast, I'm going to have an article up on the entire Cubs bullpen usage for this entire series. I'm almost done writing it, but we had to start recording. It seems pretty likely to me that Daniel Palencia, and I like this, could continue to be used as the mid-game high leverage shutdown reliever. And he might rely on Kittredge and Keller for the 8th and 9th and those types of opportunities. I think that's smart. I don't think that I was expecting that coming into this series. Maybe you could have convinced me that Palencia wasn't going to get the save opportunities, but I thought like, okay, maybe he'll get like the 7th or the 8th inning.
Yeah.
But like he might be like the 5th inning, top of the order, guys on 2nd and 3rd. No, we're not letting this happen. Palencia is going to come in. Yep. And if he's doing that, it's not 2 full innings. It's often like 1 or 2 outs, and then he comes back out for a full clean inning. If he can do that throughout the playoffs, if they can ride him, if his shoulder's okay and everything, that's a pretty, game-changing weapon. I did not think we were going to see Palencia for multiple innings twice, and we did. So that might be a sign.
No, and like you said, not in those middle innings, bridge guy. I thought that if you'd asked me, I would have said that's of course going to be Colin Ray, or it's going to be Aaron Savali, or it's going to be Mike Soroka. Like I thought.
And listen, now in a 5-game series, it might.
You can't do it every time. But if you told me in advance that Palencia was going to be that guy twice in 3-game series, I would have been like that. I just wouldn't have predicted that. Keller and Kittredge in the 8th, 9th, I think Counsell had kind of tipped his hand late in the season when Palencia was out that he's comfortable with that. So let's, any other sort of final thoughts on the Padres series?
I do have one more. And that is the, talk about demons exercised. I wrote this yesterday as well. I don't think there was a better outcome for a series clinching win than not Michael Busch. Ian Happ going 1 for 3 with a double and that successful bunt. Kyle Tucker going 2 for 4 after getting a hit the night before. And crow-armstong going 3 for 4. Obviously playing great defense and all that, but hitting the ball hard over and over and over. Happ, Tucker, PCA need to be a lot better than they were in the first 2 games of that series. And again, I honestly do, like, I hate comparing everything to the people who are on Twitter because we're all emotional and reactive and all of that in the moment. And that goes like 3 times on X, excuse me. But that Padres, the 2 starters in the first 2 games and then the bullpen through all the games are as good of pitching as you're going to see for the most part. So like Matt Shaw, again, not Pivetta and Cease necessarily, but the relievers and those 2 starters are good. So let's not pretend like they're scrubs.
Pivetta was one of the best starters in baseball.
Yeah. I mean, and so like, there's a lot of like, okay, I understand, but that's like a good excuse for like Dansby and Shaw and maybe Carson Kelly to not hit. Like Kyle Tucker, PCA, and Ian Happ, when you're facing righties, you guys got to hit. If you're not gonna, there's it's like Michael Busch and then Nico Hoerner will smack some singles around. Maybe Sale will hit one out. Like they need Tucker, PCA, and Happ as their other big power hitting or on base type guy lefties to do stuff against right-handed pitching. And they did not in the first 2 games. So to see them all have good, really good, solid, impressive game 3s, it was heartening to me.
Not only that, but it's especially true when Kyle Tucker can't play right field, and that locks you in some other ways that involve both Ian Happ and Seiya Suzuki and Moises Ballesteros. Like it affects a lot of things that you can and cannot do when Tucker can't play right field. And so if that's going to be the case, then all those guys really need to be performing on offense for you to feel like, okay, well, it sucks that there isn't as much flexibility as we'd like, but everybody's producing. So, all's well that ends well. Yeah, I totally agree that was a big takeaway from yesterday. I think I wanted to, I won't even do a whole thing on it. You guys can read the post, but the Padres getting ticked about the call on Xander Bogaerts and 9th on Brad Keller.
Talk about it a little bit.
I think, in the moment, I totally get it. Pitch did look like a ball and it looked like a walk, and the StatCast actually had it as a strike when you got the full data, not the ESPN K zone. But even setting that aside, I think you can't assume that inning is going to proceed exactly the same way if he's just given up a dinger and a walk, maybe that's his last batter, not in there to plunk 2 more batters thereafter. That, oh, by the way, all the execution would have been exactly the same. The pitch calls would have been exactly the same. His mindset would have been exactly the same. Like, get out of here with that. So I get it
for sure. Not even close.
But I am not going to tolerate. And the reason I belabor this a little bit is because I can envision a world where, the Cubs go on a run, and then like years later, people are like, yeah, but you remember how that pitch was not a strike? No. And especially because it's coming at the end of the no automated balls and strike era.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be held up as this. That's why we had to get ABS. And so I'm already kind of pushing back.
Yeah, whatever though. I mean, listen, besides the fact that StatCast had it as a strike, which I really don't think we should just gloss over that. It's like way more.
If there was a challenge, it's possible that the challenge would have come back.
Yeah.
Actually, that clipped the corner.
And whatever. But how about just more importantly, okay, so not only was it a strike, not only do things not proceed that way afterwards, here's the bottom line. How many times, like anytime that sort of thing happens to the Cubs, the naysayers who are correct say it doesn't come down to one strike call. Oh, that didn't go. That's why you lost a 3-game series and a 9-inning game, because one call of a ball and strike didn't go your way. No. How about we go back then and re-examine every single ball and strike call from that game and see if any other changed the Cubs' way? Does that change anything, or no? Just that one.
The play that one counts with Nico. That I think he was probably safe, but I understand why they couldn't overturn it.
But again, those are big. That's a run scoring call. It's fine, whatever. Yeah. Let's go back and look at just every, and then we'll see how many innings are extended, how many different pitches. You do not get to just say it's that one. There's a lot of calls. That said, genuinely, it did not look like a strike on the screen. I would be absolutely pissed if I happened to the Cubs.
This whole podcast would have
absolutely. Yes. I'm not talking out of that. I would be furious, and I'd be like, well, that's the whole game. You can't let that. That's why we need robot ums. So I get it. I do get it. But I mean, cry me a river. And
I would like to think in the cold light of day or a few days later, we would say, yeah, but you know what? Our guys got to hit. They've got to do more than nothing until the 9th inning. And I think it's a credit to the Cubs pitching and their game plan and their execution. And
how much they bribed the umpires before the game.
Well, sure.
I saw a Padres fan check out the home plate umpires bio on Wikipedia, and he's from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and the closest Major League Baseball team to Grand Rapids is the Chicago Cubs.
Love it.
It's like, feed me that.
That
I don't care. Do you know how many times the Cardinals and the Brewers have done stupid shit like that to us? So also the Cubs lost 4 challenges in that game, or 3 out of 4. I want to say they lost.
I know they lost their 2,
and then the Padres overturned one.
Yeah.
So that's 3. And then they won the second.
The one was like not even, it was just,
you might as well do it. So whatever, we deserved it. I wanted that, and I will take it. All right. I have a tiny game for us. Right. And it's going to kind of just extend our conversation. So first and foremost, this week's game is brought to you by Felco, the home renewal experts. Bleacher Nation is proud to partner with Felco for almost 50 years. Felco has been transforming Chicagoland homes with their windows, siding, doors, and roofing. Felco is family owned and prides themselves on delighting their customers with products made in the U.S. and designed specifically for the Midwest. Felco offers the perfect balance of beauty and energy efficiency. This week's game is less of a game, but it is, an opportunity for us to dissect some stuff that is both backwards looking and forwards looking. So this, I don't have a name for it. I wish I had a fun name for it. I'll just describe what I want you to do. I want you to tell me, with all hindsight and retrospect, and knowing that these things can apply to the Brewers series, what would you have changed about how Craig Counsell managed / set up the lineup, defensive positioning, starting pitchers, bullpen? What are you changing about that series, how it was done, and then sort of keeping in mind that those changes would be effectively what we will do for the Brewers?
I think, you and I talked about maybe the only thing on the positional offensive side that I would consider, which is giving an opportunity to like pre-planning an opportunity to steal a Moises Ballesteros at bat against a righty, by way of, for example, if you were to start Reese McGuire, then you let him have one at bat, and then you plan that Moises is going to pinch hit, and then Carson Kelly comes in, and even that, I can already imagine all of the pushback on it, because the alternative is, wouldn't you rather reserve your best hitter coming off the bench for a spot when you might, instead of pre-planning? But then it's like, well, then you might not use him at all. And you also would have been nice to have a lefty to be up early. I mean, whatever. There were things that arguments could be made, but broadly speaking, there's just not much I would have done with the lineup. Or I think it's a real, you got to use the guys you have situation. And I think Tucker not being able to play right field limits the ability to be creative.
Well, what about the order of the lineup? I mean, would you have? You're leaving it as is? I know it is simultaneously an overrated change that fans suggest, but also it's kind of like the opposite in a one. Like, it makes less of a difference over 162 games, and potentially all of the difference in one game.
Right, for sure. So there's just not a change I would make. There's no spot right now where, it's not like I'm like, I wish PCA was up higher, or I wish Dansby was getting more opportunities in the middle of the lineup. You
don't think Seiya has sort of the last week, you're not thinking, maybe he does need to bat up a spot.
But part of me's like, don't mess with it. Because whatever he went through, he's unlocked it. And I know that teams and players will say that the psychological impact of like where they're hitting and who's in front, who's on base, that doesn't mean that much. But I don't know. Maybe just like, it's like not changing your socks. I just
how like I'm not personally religious, but you know how everyone gets religious when the plane starts going through turbulence. We all get a little homery when the game starts mattering a little bit more. We're like, don't change your underwear today.
But on the pitching side, I mean, the one is foresight and hindsight, because I was saying as it was playing out, couldn't believe that Shota came out for that inning to face Tatis and then Machado a second time. Like, I just didn't, I thought you have these long righties available. I think all three of them were available at that time. It just didn't make any sense to me. And certainly once Tatis reached, and then it's like, okay, have him face Arise. And then for Machado, obviously you take him out, and he didn't. And then it's like, okay, well then I guess you're obviously walking him.
Yeah, because it was Tatis was on second, right? So they had the first base open.
Yep, because Arise bunted. He sack bunted.
Oh yeah.
It was like a freebie of like, oh, thanks for opening up first base for Machado.
Yeah, and so you know what I thought was strange about that, because Shota and Counsell, but I saw Shota's comments, talked about it, and I think this suggestion from the reporter was like, did you consider walking Machado? Implied intentionally. And he was like, no. And I was like, okay, I actually understand that to an extent, but then you pitch around him. You throw balls nowhere close to the zone.
And to be fair, that pitch was a splitter, which I don't think was supposed to be a middle splitter.
Yeah, I understand. And I get that the pitch call was correct, but you should just be bearing. It should be your most extreme version of your splitter, right? Like, it should be, if you're throwing
you can't mess it up. If you're going to go for it, then you cannot fail to execute. And
I don't know. Okay, sorry, go on. That
I certainly would have done differently. And, we can debate whether if the Cubs it's 1-0 later in that game, is it better for the Cubs, or it might not have mattered. And then
maybe it would have been worse. Maybe they would have brought in Daniel Palencia or any number of the guys that they reserved. Who didn't pitch in game 2 and then were critical in game 3.
Yeah, for sure. So, and so I think I can't even really point to the specifics on this part, because I do think for the most part, Craig Counsell managed so well the choices. Mm-hmm. I did actually think when Keller came back out for the 9th, this also isn't hindsight. I was sort of like, I don't know. I know it's 3 days in a row for Kittredge, but maybe just let him have the 9th. So maybe I would have played with that.
I mean, at least taking him out earlier. Absolutely taken him out
after the
earlier.
first hit by pitch, I would have been like, okay, now
that's it.
Now tying runs coming to the plate. Let's switch this up. I'm sure they had their reasons in terms of pitch
I mean,
on paper.
Kittredge did. Listen, he pitched 3 days in a row. I mean,
yeah. And also, I'm thankful that he only threw that. What did he throw? Like 5 pitches or something?
Yeah, that's lucky. I mean, he's shaping up to be a pretty evidently critical piece of the Cubs late game strategy this month, whether we like it or not. Andrew Kittredge he's like one of the guys, and I do like it. I'm not saying whether I didn't mean it like that, but it's like he's obviously doesn't come with the cachet of Daniel Palencia or Brad Keller, who are just more impressive.
Well, and Kittredge was that guy, 5-6 years ago. Like, it's not like he's never been a elite closer or elite reliever. He was with the Rays for a long time. It's just that then he went through that period of wilderness, like a lot of relievers do.
He grew that beard while he was out there.
Grew that beard, and that's
he has a great mound presence. I'm gonna give him that. He like when he's out there, he's got that calm demeanor that you don't see with every pitcher, even really good ones who are still awesome. Like I wouldn't say, frankly, I wouldn't say Daniel Palencia is like a big confidence inspiring, calm mound presence guy. He's more of like a explosion of fire. And that's awesome. And it's its own category of awesome. It's completely different and not lesser. I'm just saying when Kittredge came in last night, I was kind of feel like we're going to be okay now.
You know what a lot of that is we talked about this a long time ago. A lot of it is just strike throwing ability.
Yeah.
Like it is the pitcher's mound presence, but when it's paired with a guy who just doesn't walk a lot of guys, it inspires confidence in us. Like with Palencia, he's going to strike a ton of dudes out, so it makes up for it. But he's been like a 10% walk rate guy, and like a lot of deep counts, a lot of like tightrope walking. And with Kittredge, it's like if you want him to throw strikes, he'll just throw some strikes. And point in fact, the final pitch of the game was an absolute meatball. I mean, it was a middle fastball. It's 96, and I'm sure it had some deception, and I'm sure, but I did think about the fact that how often pitchers get away with that, and we don't notice or comment upon it. But like with the times when a guy jumps on one and clobbers it, it's sort of like, well, of course you hit a home run.
Why'd you leave it there?
Yeah, why'd you leave it there? What are you doing? Shota executing,
Well, to be fair, that's true though. Like he did get away
like
with
it's
one.
good. Yeah. It's not like I'm advocating middle fastballs. It's just, it happens, like I doubt Kittredge was trying to throw it there.
Right.
So anyway, long story short, on other changes would just be, if some of those key relievers had appeared less in the series, that'd be great. If you somehow could have reserved some pitches, but
he basically did in game 2. I mean, he tried his best.
Sat a lot of the guys down.
It kind of felt like he was like, we're not winning this game. So Colin Ray,
and you wouldn't, I'm sure he wouldn't punt a game away, but in the playoffs, you do have to be thinking about the fact that, okay, we do have another opportunity tomorrow. Yeah. And the matchup was good I liked it a lot better.
I wish we left Darvish in for longer.
I know.
Would have been so much less stressful.
Did you feel bad for him at all? I did.
Because I love Darvish. Darvish is one of those guys that just like, what a lovable player. He was a Cub for a long time, but everyone liked him.
But yes, I wanted I wanted him to stay in and just keep getting hit and keep turning around to the camera.
He didn't have
being
it.
Like every time he turns to the camera, he's like, shit, what?
He did that even with the Cubs. Like,
yeah.
Before we go, first, did you have any other changes? Because there's one more thing that we need to talk about.
No, go ahead.
I can't believe we haven't talked about this, frankly. The MVP of the National League Wild Card Series between the Chicago Cubs and the San Diego Padres, Dansby Swanson. His defense was incredible. And so part of me is like, he didn't field cleanly a lot of balls, but he made every play. And then he made a ton of incredibly impressive plays, going out on pop-ups that were incredibly difficult to catch.
He won game one. Game one was him.
Yeah.
Those 2 plays, he saved 2 runs and they won by 2 runs. I mean,
Mike Schilt even said, I think he said something like Dansby beat us with his glove or something. And it was like, absolutely. I mean, again, I love judging the way fans are reacting by the friends of mine who don't watch Cubs baseball ever and then text me during games like this. And they're like, wow, Dansby's like I got one that said it was Mason Miller pitching. And went, man, that pitcher is good. And I was like, yeah,
who is this guy?
It's Mason Miller. But they were saying like people were texting me about Dansby and I was like, I mean, but like this was to an extreme degree. He was awesome. He was fired up. That gif of him running in after that one out he made and the camera just got him perfectly kind of doing the Ric Flair thing. We did like the woo, like was like the image that's seared into my head from this series. He was incredible. He deserves so much credit. He also walked in what was, I guess, the game winning RBI, right?
Sure.
So, incredible series for him.
And he had a couple hits in the series too.
Yeah.
He scored. I think he scored a couple runs. So.
I think he did. But like, again, it just, you don't remember his bat this series. For me, right. I don't. It was his glove. I mean, the broadcast was talking about it constantly. He did a really good job, and I just want to give him his flowers because that was impressive stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about that series is why you go out and poach Craig Counsell, and it's why you sign Dansby Swanson. So I guess shouts to Jed Hoyer then.
Jed Hoyer, yeah. That was a Jed Hoyer.
He built this bullpen too.
A lot of fingerprints.
So Cubs Brewers Saturday at 1:00 Central, kicking off the NLDS at Wrigley North in Milwaukee. Go if you can and cheer on the Cubs. I'm sure it'll be at least 50-50.
My son's third birthday is tomorrow, Saturday. It starts at 5:00. My wife tells me we need to leave around 4:00, which is about 3 hours after. I was like,
the Cubs will already have like a 7-run lead at that point. It'll be fine. Do
you have any final predictions? I guess we're not going to talk to anyone until next Thursday. So,
well, I think I can give you the meatball-y one, or I can give you the reality, which is like predicting is silly. It's something like this. I think I just would like to see.
Listeners, I'm trying to get him to the 1 hour mark. We only have 7 minutes and 45 seconds.
We are not going to do that.
I'm filibustering this podcast.
I think if they can come back to Wrigley, at least split, I'm happy.
Is there a shot Cade Horton is back for a game 5?
Right. That is correct. I haven't heard any indication that that's.
That might have just been like what the date was, not right. What.
And I think that was why it was chosen that he went on when he went on the aisle in the first place. Yeah. I think it was like, oh, let's pick a day when, if we needed him and if a miracle happens in the recovery.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think if they can come back to Wrigley, split 1-1, I'm happy. And then
that's all you hope for. That's always been the case. And that's all you hope for when you don't have home field advantage for a series, which the Cubs won't have this series or beyond, right? They can't. So you split those first 2 and then you feel pretty good, at least giving yourself a shot. But yeah, I'm nervous and very excited, and I'm very happy we got that series win. It feels good. It feels like at a minimum, again, absent just being absolutely pantsed by the Brewers this series.
Sure.
It feels like, okay, we had ourselves a season. We won a playoff series. It was a good regular year, regular season, good record and all that. We won a playoff series. Now it's how far can you go? Play with house money a little bit. You're playing the best team in baseball. We're the underdogs. They're the best team. They couldn't possibly lose. Home field advantage and the best team in baseball.
How humiliating. It would be for the Brewers if they lost to these Cubs. These lowly Cubs. All right. This is the BN Cubs podcast. We are here for you every Thursday or Friday, depending on game times. But hopefully when we talk to you next Thursday, it'll be because the Cubs already wrapped up NLDS against the Brewers. I'm Brett Taylor. That's Michael Cerami. We write at Bleacher Nation. You can read our stuff there. And a thank you to our sponsors at Ankin Law, 312-6million, Injury Law Made Personal. And we appreciate you and hope you have a great weekend. Go Cubs tomorrow. Peace. Fly it.